So all of this and around it's going to be competitive, I think, run to the playoffs. We can still do it. I think I heard it today on Good Morning Football on the NFL channel, and it's a really good term, that there's a fake bad team, and the Eagles are definitely a fake bad team because they have the pieces to be good. And they're really a few instances away from being 3-0, but they're 1-2.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin.
Welcome, everybody, to the ChadBurn Show. As always, I am your host, ChadBurn, and running behind the scenes, as always, we have Julian, a.k.a. Fromeister, big guy on campus, Renvoise. So I am super excited to be doing this show right now because, well, I've been away for 3 weeks on vacation, and during that time, something magical happened, Julian, and well, it's the start of the NFL season. Oh, just overjoyed, so happy, just was itching at it. I was over there, with the time difference, I had to start watching, the 1 o'clock games were starting at, 7 p.m., and then the late night games starting at 2 a.m., I had to watch the Week 2 Eagles game at 2 a.m. in the living room of my wife's, family's house. Ridiculous, but these are the things we do for the game we love. But man, there is a lot to unpack. So I came in a solid, up here 10 out of 10 excited level for the Eagles season. I thought this is a 12-4 team. I was like, there's nothing to stop us. And the first game happens, and of course, I stayed at a 10, a solid 10, if not a 12 out of 10. Because they delivered. They were behind. The team showed resiliency. They showed that they could come back when the chips were down. They needed to really score. They could do it. And they beat the pants off the Redskins when it came down to it in the second half with Deshaun Jackson, 2 over 50-yard passes for touchdowns. It was a beautiful sight. I mean, Carson really came through. He had a 71.8% completion rating, 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards throwing. I mean, that's what you expect to see with a team with high expectations, and his throwing looked so good. But as all wonderful dreams and amazing moments happen, you wake up, and what happened is, comes week 2 against none other than the freaking Atlanta Falcons, who we have played a million times in crucial games. The playoff run that led to the Super Bowl, the most amazing 4th down hold there, to last season where we held them at the goal line again to win in week 1. Week 2, Falcons, Sunday Night Football. This is a moment where you'd expect a team that is going to go far into the Super Bowl to really light it up, to show their offensive prowess, to show everyone that this is a team that's here to stay, that is a juggernaut. 2 injuries in the first half. Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, minor but worth mentioning, Dallas Goedert. So many more injuries happened, but 2 key critical players in that game, nobody owned besides Zach Ertz. So what happens? Falcons double down on Zach Ertz. They start taking advantage. They start blitzing the offensive line that looked shoddy, to say the least. Peters couldn't stop anyone off the edge. He was beat, I don't know if it was McKinley or someone else who kept coming off the edge, who beat Peters every time, who looked slower than he's ever done his entire career. And so Carson gets pounded. He's throwing for 58.1%, eventually gets a touchdown, but those 2 picks, he's getting harassed and having to get rid of the ball quickly. Again, they come back. But what really disappointed me about seeing this week 2 is something that I feel is epidemic of the Doug Peterson regime post Frank Reich. That they don't look prepared on the offensive side for the team that they're playing. The first half, the game plan clearly wasn't working. This is a team, the Falcons, who got demolished on the run game by the Vikings the week before, and yet there's no run game to be seen. We're not trying, we're not pushing it, we're not going up tempo, we're not working out of the huddle. It's just everything wasn't connecting. Granted, I hear you. Injuries happen. Injuries cause you to have to change your game plan. All of that makes sense to me. But a good coach is prepared to overcome those things and change the game plan and tailor it. Now, I will tell you, a strength of Doug Peterson is that after the first half, he does make adjustments, and he prepares his team coming out of that first half to better equip themselves against that opponent. But you need to see that early on. That has to be something that they're working on. The quarterback needs to be protected and know how to take apart that defense. They did make a run in the second half. They did get the lead, and Carson Wentz was brilliant all the way through at the end there. But the defense gives up a huge play. They give up a giant 60-yard touchdown to Julio on a screen. And our defense, because, look, we all love Schwartz for being cautious, and this time he was being a little more, he's trying to blitz, zero coverage, no safety over the middle. So when the block, which was well executed, happens on the cornerback, Julio's free and there's no one in front of him. So it happened, and we try to go down, and if we maybe get that fourth down, we were inches away from that fourth down play, maybe we score again. But again, a few steps away from being 2-0. So now we're 1-1. Head into week 3 against the Lions. This is a matchup you have to be excited about because this is a team that's not proven yet. They don't necessarily have all the weapons you think it would be really dangerous for a team like the Eagles. You think you can pick them apart. Wrong again. But this time, it's not Wentz. Wentz looks brilliant. Wentz goes out there and is throwing dimes everywhere and is really controlling the tempo of that game. It's amazing. The defense lets us down at the beginning. Special teams lets us down with a touchdown off the bat, with the first kickoff they could do. That leads to being down 7-3. And before you know it, the Eagles are again in a hole trying to dig themselves out. And 7 drops. 2 fumbles from Miles Sanders and 1 fumble from Nelson Aguilar. And he dropped at least another 2 or 3. Dallas Goedert dropping one in the end zone. And then on the final play of the game, going to JJ over the middle in the end zone. It's high above the cornerback, exactly where it needs to be to complete that pass. And he drops it. If he catches that, again, we are now 3-0 in these situations where it's one play away from succeeding in every one of these games. But that's what's going to kill these Eagles down the long run. The Cowboys, I agree, have had an easy schedule, and I know they're out to 3-0 start, and talking about a Cowboys out loud just makes me cringe, and somewhere Jerry Jones is just getting a little more excited hearing an Eagles fan talk about them. But it's true. They've got an easy schedule, and they're taking advantage, and they're beating their teams easily. And that's scary to think about. So all of this and around, it's going to be a competitive, I think, run to the playoffs. We can still do it. I think I heard it today on Good Morning Football on the NFL channel, and it's a really good term, that there's a fake bad team, and the Eagles are definitely a fake bad team because they have the pieces to be good. They're really a few instances away from being 3-0, but they're 1-2 losing record, and tonight against the Packers, it's going to be a hard test. This is one of the top defenses in the league right now. They're either second or third in all major categories for defense. They have a great rush attack. They're getting the quarterback, getting sacks, and with our kind of leaky offensive line, I'm nervous. So hopefully Dougie P comes in with a better game plan to be prepared in the first half. It leads into a successful drive in the second half, and we don't have to worry about coming from behind and can win. I think if the Eagles win, it'll be 28-21, 28-24, somewhere around that lines. If the Packers win, it's a blowout. The Packers win, it's going to be 33 to maybe 18. That's how much better they are if they're on a roll. It's going to be a great quarterback setup, but again, those drops. Oh man, 7 drops. If all those passes that have been caught, Carson Wentz goes from 52.8% complete to 72% completion, and the game's changed. I mean, it's a whole nother game. So really, my excitement has dropped to about a 7 or a 6. I'm still over the mid-mark. I still believe that there's a lot to come with this team. I think we have a lot to see. I'd love to see Jordan Howard get some more carries. Rare sighting seeing him in the game, but this is what we're set up to see, is that now we're going to go pass heavy. Miles Sanders clearly is the guy they want to get the ball. They want to see that workload constantly. They don't want to give it to Jordan Howard. I don't know why. He's a dog in the trenches. He really fights for it. He hits hard every time. He bulldozes over people. Sanders, I know he can catch. He's a wide receiver and a running back mixed together, and clearly that's what they want. He's a bigger Sproles. I see it. I know why they're training him, but again, this is what's going to happen. So I hope to see a better run game. I hope to see a better game plan. I hope to see less penalties. There can't be as many offensive penalties as we've had. That's insane. So I think if we keep all that together, we'll be strong and hopefully can make a better push in the rest of the season. Patriots were 1-2 at the beginning last year, went on to win the Super Bowl. We're not the Patriots, but again, if this is not a death knell, we have a chance to come forward and really show our strength through the rest of the season. So I have faith. So hopefully this is where we'll get to at the end of the season. So now that I'll try and push down deep in my soul away the Eagle fandom to not completely pollute the airways with all that and try and talk about other topics, we'll move away from just X's and O's. At the end of the show, I want to kind of go through a rundown of the top main topics of today in the NFL. But I think it's worthwhile. Cool news today. The Super Bowl halftime show is announced, Julian. And it's going to be J-Lo and Shakira.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's exciting. I kind of like it. I think it's a cool act. I mean, for what you have out there, it'll be fun. I mean, they're both women that clearly have not lost a step through all their years. Beautiful still. I mean, God, J-Lo's what, 50?
Well, that's still top of the game.
Whew. Yeah, she's killing it. Shakira can't be that far behind her, but I think that's gonna be a very sexy show, to say the least. That is a hips don't lie, and a girl that sang recently about her ass. I believe that will be a very sexy show for the halftime. Don't know if he'll be kid approved. Might have to put your younger ones to bed at halftime before that show starts. I mean, it's gonna be hilarious, but I'm excited. But I think I also am kind of liking it because it's a little mix of a band of obviously two artists that are very established. They're still new. It's still they're still the new generation because something I was talking to Julian before the show and what we've seen, I've actually written down the list of all the acts we've had since 2005. But we're getting at least modern bands at the halftime show for the last decade. Because if you think about it, from 2005 to 2010, it was Paul McCartney, Rolling Stones, Prince, Tom Petty, Springsteen, The Who, like everyone from our parents' generation. And they're not bad bands. Of course, they're great. But it was like we were asking, what's going to be the next step? Like, how are we going to get bands that are more modern to do it? Unfortunately, their first step after these established bands would go Black Eyed Peas, which I don't care if you're a fan or not, that show was horrendous.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, do you remember? Like, that was so bad. Oh, it was just, everything about it just was cringeworthy. So, and then they were like, it was just funny, after Black Eyed Peas were like, oh, we need to go back to the old formula, and they got Madonna.
Yeah.
So they were like, all right, we're going to go back, bring it back.
Then
We're bringing the pop.
Chili Peppers, right?
No, what they did was, yes, but what they did was they had Beyonce.
All right.
Can't go wrong. They had Beyonce. But then after that, they did Bruno Mars, who was with the Red Hot. And that was fantastic. But again, Bruno Mars, he's a hell of a musician. I mean, it's like he's an artist. It's insane what he does. Producer all around. He makes great music. But yeah, that was the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that was sick. I think Red Hot Chili Peppers could be on their own, but, it's fine. And then after, again, Katy Perry, Coldplay, Lady Gaga, Justin Timberlake. Again, Justin Timberlake, a terrible show. I don't know why he decided to play what he did. But anyways, and Maroon 5. So, and I skimmed over quickly. And Maroon 5. And, that's okay. And they happened. That's fine. So, I think it'll be fun. It's a good act. It'll keep everyone excited. And at least they'll watch it. And you have different generations. You'll have millennials know they're watching. You'll have the 90s kids will definitely be excited. So I think it's a good pick. I think for the first time in years, it won't be a controversial pick. I remember last year it was a hoopla because they're in Atlanta and they chose Maroon 5, and everyone's like, how can you choose someone that's not from Atlanta when you're hosting Atlanta? Like, it's crazy. But I think this will be good. It's a crowd pleaser. I imagine the show will be great.
The Super Bowl?
Ah, good question. I think it's in Texas. Is it Texas or Florida this year? It's one of the. I think it might be Houston, because I know they're due, and usually we keep to the southern states now because it's always warm, or a dome because you don't want the weather to be a factor. They used to have the snow games in the winter, with the north states, but generally, I remember for a while Miami was always the host of the Super Bowl because they just wanted to be warm.
Right.
Now you had Minnesota, but they're in a dome, so I believe it's Houston. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll have to check that for the next show, but we'll see. I think it's going to be really fun and it should be a good Super Bowl, and hopefully the Eagles will be in it. But right now, the team that looks so good is the Chiefs. They are, man, having Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes together, that's just unfair. So they'll probably be in the Super Bowl. I imagine they'll be the final beatdown of the Patriots. They will be out. Done. Calling it now. I'm going to say it. On this hot take, Patriots, not the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Oh, man. I mean, maybe it's just the hopeful in me, the romantic in me wanting to believe in this, but they are out. That's what I'm saying right now. And I got a lot of people I know, Patriots fans. They'll disagree, but I get it. They're good. They're 3-0, but, man, the AFC's got some good talent. And, if they can, take advantage of the aging wonder that is Tom Brady, I think it'll be interesting. But NFC, man, I don't know. Everyone that's 3-0 right now are really? You got these teams that are 3-0 right now where you're like, how? I mean, besides the Cowboys and the Rams, everyone else yeah. So I think it's going to be kind of wide open in the end. So far, most of my predictions have been right, besides the Browns, who are, as always, the Browns. So they'll probably not get anywhere. But, we'll see. I think so far it's been a fun first 3 weeks. I think there's been some interesting storylines. And as a segue, we'll now go through my NFL run-through of the fascinating topics of today, over the last 3 weeks. A lot to unpack. There have been many stories of people who have been just absolute trash human beings, people who have come from nothing to become stars, and of course, the old story of the Browns I mentioned, just continuing to show us why to be a Cleveland Browns fan is but a whipping against a wall constantly. It is but punishment on the soul. God bless you, Browns fans. You go and support this team every year, and they just give you dreck on dreck on dreck. Oh, man. But anyways, so I'm going through a couple topics. I'll try and keep it short, looking at time. Try and give about a minute each on topic and really collect my thoughts on it. But the first one I think that needs to be addressed and has been in the news for a while now, and obviously everyone's already made their points about it. But Antonio Brown, the amazing, wonderful, number one overall wide receiver, Antonio Brown, who has put us on a saga of selfishness, arrogance, and just plain stupidity that we all knew existed in wide receivers, but we haven't seen since Terrell Owens. Fun fact, both Terrell Owens and Antonio Brown are represented by the same agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Maybe a connection? Don't know. Maybe he just tracks crazy. Who cares? But we had back in the day Terrell Owens, who was doing crunches in his driveway without his shirt, answering questions from reporters about why he wasn't returning to the Eagles team, why he wanted his contract, so on and so forth. Capped off with his agent going, next question, not answering a single question at a presser. But we now have Antonio Brown, his new client, who decided, well, one, his helmet didn't fit, can't have that. Decided to file two grievances with the NFL, lost both because they said it's not safe for your head. And I think what we've noticed is there may be a reason he was using an unsafe helmet that could explain his insanity. Someone has been hit way too many times with an old helmet. They gave him a solution, and with all his money, he apparently couldn't find that, so he continued to complain. Then was fined by the Oakland Raiders, who fined him, and he decided to post that publicly about the fine and publicly shame them after saying how much he wanted to play with the Raiders, which then led him to calling the GM Mike Mayock a quote-unquote cracker. I find it very funny because as a white man, I can say it. And I don't find it as offensive, but I do believe it is an offensive term for many. I like watching the people on ESPN, such as Stephen A. Smith, who is a African-American gentleman, be like, I am not white, so I can't say it. Well, I'm like, wow, oh my God, wow, okay, so that's our word. But that's what he called him. And so that started a big spat. And then finally they release him because they're like, no. So real quick, Jules, he was set to make $30 million guaranteed. No contingencies. That just was in the contract if he made it through this, I think it was, I think he had to make it through the first season, but he had $30 million guaranteed for the season with signing bonus and everything. Because of all his shenanigans getting released, he forfeited that. He doesn't get it. No, doesn't get $30 million. So he doesn't get 30 million. So he goes and he does this big whole thing because the Patriots signed him after that. So he gets the Patriots. His big old social media about, oh my God, they released me. I'm heaven praise. Oh my God, the Raiders. I'm free. When clearly it was his fault.
Right.
But anyway, so he's acting like they tortured him and were treating him so poorly, and everyone's after poor AB. And then he goes to Patriots, and all this sexual harassment stuff comes out, and it's like, oh man, there's something here.
Right.
Patriots kind of with him, but then he decides to send intimidating text messages to the victims. Can't do that. Patriots cut him. He was set to make $15 million guarantee the Patriots. Voided after being cut so early. A day, if he had lasted another day, he would have made it. So he was set to make $30 million, then $15 million, now zero. So he says he quit football. We'll see how long that lasts because really, honestly, I don't. He'll come back. He's going to school right now, so maybe that will help him. So AB saga is fascinating. It's incredible, but that's that. The next great story in football right now is Melvin Gordon is back from his big holdout. We thought he might make it to week 10. He made it to week 4. Not getting a new contract, not getting more money. Really losing on all sides here. The point was for him the goal was, if you haven't heard, Melvin Gordon, running back for San Diego Chargers, LA Chargers now, believed that he deserved more money than what he was getting. He wanted to make sure that he was safe with his career. Running backs have short careers. It makes sense. But he wanted to get more. He wanted more guaranteed. They didn't want to give it to him, so he was going to hold out for the season. Unfortunately for them, the Chargers were doing just fine without him. They are 1-2, but the Chargers did have a good running back duo, so it was fine. But now he's coming back. Not a new contract, bit of a shame, but the players on his team supported him. They understood why he was doing it, so I think in the long run it works out. But Gordon is finally back. What does that mean? Well, my fantasy team's really happy. I have a guy that now is going to help me out. I thought I was going to have to go a long time with no real RB1, but here we go. He won't play this week because obviously he's just back Thursday. He's not going to play Sunday. Might not play the next week, but basically he could be playing by week 6. So really exciting. I think it's good news for Chargers fans. I think you got a dynamic player, but he definitely will not be there next season. Like, he's going to move on. I think that's clear. But hopefully he plays well. So all that to it. I love having Gordon back. The other big news while I was out is a amazing rookie quarterback in the Giants, Daniel Jones, who in my first episode of this show, decided to say was picked way too early, which I think a lot of people agreed and thought he was a joke out of Duke. I was clearly wrong. 64% completion rating, 336 yards, 2 TDs passed, and 2 TDs that he ran in. And he took a team that was down 18 points and won. So Daniel Jones mania is strong and happening. I have a lot of Giants fans who are super excited. But I don't know where this kid came from. I think most people are correct that he was definitely not the talent that we saw coming out of college. I think he's grown a lot. And, maybe it's just a good fit. Maybe it's a good coach. Who knows? But Daniel Jones is here to play, and we'll see. I hope maybe it's not an aberration. I think it could be. Maybe in the next few weeks, defenses figure out how to play him. But he obviously is a competitor. He's obviously excited to play and push forward. So that, I think, will be as good to see and what happens to Daniel Jones. And then finally, my fourth one, which I think is fun just because Earl Thomas is smack talking him. I think you have Rex Ryan smack talking him. You have all these people really down on him. But the Cleveland Browns, who I thought might win the AFC North, I thought it was a good chance to have it happen. Clearly not. They are Baker Mayfield, cannot stop throwing picks. He's a turnover machine. I think he's dynamic outside the pocket, but eventually he's got to learn to play in the pocket and throw the pass down the field. But again, you have all these weapons with OBJ and Jarvis Landry. I don't think the coach is good. He decided on a 4th and 9 to call a draw play, which is where the quarterback keeps the ball and runs up the middle and kind of faking it like you go back to pass and run in, which has never worked. So this is amazing. Since stats were recorded on plays in football, a draw play on 4th down has never worked.
Really?
And this guy was like, you know what? I'm the genius to make it work.
There's always that one guy.
Yeah. He's like, no. Screw stats. Screw history. I got this. And I got the quarterback to do it. Didn't work. Shocker. So obviously the Browns are, they are 1-2 right now. They beat a bad Jets team, so that's their only win so far. Otherwise, they're not coming up against any great talent. I think they have OBJ and Jarvis Landry. They have obviously the weapons there. I think their defense could get a little better. We'll see how that comes along, but I don't think they have a good guy calling offensive plays. Hopefully they figure that out. Hopefully they go a long way where they can start putting the pieces together. I don't think Mayfield's overrated like Rex Ryan says. I think he's a good quarterback. I just think they need to control him and really try and train him to be patient in the pocket, not to run first, and to really be careful in what he throws into. He's still thinking colleges where the coverages are much simpler. In the NFL, it's much more complex. The man zone coverage is going to be tight. They're always going to have someone faking it. The safeties can cover ground much faster because they're all the top caliber. They read your eyes really easily. They understand the plays. They're looking through so much footage. He has to be prepared to not throw it into such tight windows, and hopefully he can succeed going past. But I don't think it's the end for them. I think they too can turn it around. Hopefully they have at least a winning season. I think Browns fans deserve that. Do they win AFC North? No, I think the Ravens do. Lamar Jackson's legit, but I think they can maybe get a wild card. So I think that's where it goes from there. I think it's fascinating so far, the NFL. I know there's been another NFL show, but really now we're right in the thick of it. I think it's exciting. I'm just giddy. It's something to look forward to every week. And tonight, obviously, I have my Birds taking up against the Packers. Let's see how they do. Let's see if they can take on the infamous Aaron Rodgers and take him down in Lambeau. It'd be a huge feat for them for sure, and I think a big motivator to push them to succeed. If they win this, I think the Eagles are on a roll after this. So if they lose, back to the drawing board. And I will go from a 7 of excitement down to a 4 and just be ranting. And the next show will just be me angrily blaming people. So that's what we have to look forward to. But anyway, so that's all I have for my run through, covering the Eagles, the halftime show, and obviously the NFL. Definitely fun. I'm glad to be back. Thank you so much to everyone for the support as we launched our first 4 episodes. It's been overwhelming, so I really do appreciate that. We'll continue to put content out right now bi-weekly, I think. We'll try and see if we can get up to weekly. We'll try. But right now, we'll do, and I'll always post on Instagram what will be the content through stories and our photos. But I want to thank everyone for the support, and hopefully we'll continue to give you some good content to listen to. As always, I am ChadBurn and Julian behind me, and I just want to thank you and have a great evening.